Hi, my name is Katie Bonnet, and I've chosen to do my Integrated Thematic Social Studies presentation over 4th grade Texas history. I decided to do Texas, the Lone Star State, which would just provide my students as an overview of Texas. That way they would know what they can expect in 4th grade social studies. They would be kind of prepared with some background and prior knowledge before we really get into the content and the curriculum. That way they really will understand the parts of Texas, what makes Texas so special. That way when we get into the harder parts of the curriculum, they've already been front loaded with the facts that they're going to need. I've chosen 11 books in all for my display center. The first book is The Inside Outside Book of Texas by Roxy Munro. The second is This is Texas by Miroslav Sosik. The third is Voices of the Alamo by Sherry Garland. The fourth is The Tree That Would Not Die by Ellen Levine. The fifth is Bluebonnet at the Texas State Capitol, which is by Mary Burke Cassad. Then I have two books, both by Tommy DePella. I have The Legend of the Indian Paintbrush and The Legend of the Bluebonnet. I also have two books by Sandy Fan, American Indians in Texas and The Caddo and the Comanche. And then rounding out my books, I have two that are by Jamie Levy, and that is The Missions of Texas and The Native Americans of Texas. I chose to do this unit with lots of integration. There's going to be lots of reading and a lot of social studies as well as writing. The first assignment that I've chosen to do with my students is we're going to read The Tree That Would Not Die. And as we read The Tree That Would Not Die, they're going to fill in a timeline of the events as it goes through. The story goes through a tree being planted way back before anyone ever settled Texas in the times of the Native Americans. And it goes all the way through to current today, with it becoming the treaty oak and all of the things that are significant about the treaty oak and the fact that it survived all these historical events. So they're going to start with the first event in the story, and then they're going to read through the story until they get to the very last event, which is going to be it being named in a landmark of Texas that we get to restore and keep up every year. The next assignment we're going to do is a small group instruction. This is something I'm going to do with them. These are the primary source readers that we use on our campus, and it's something that we do under teacher guided direction. That way they get different varying levels of reading ability, as well as communication skills, comprehension questions, all of the things that they're going to need practice and support in. The American Indians in Texas is actually the on-level book for 4th grade, and then you've got Caddo and Comanche that's a little bit easier reading level for those that may be slightly behind. It has two different sets of activities. The students that are working on American Indians in Texas with me are going to complete through the years. It goes through the story and talks about how the Native Americans changed through the years, through settlers coming and the Spanish coming and all of that. And then they will take a brief quiz at the end of the week after we've worked through the book the entire time. Then those that I need some extra support and those that may be my Tier 2 and my Tier 3 students are going to read The Caddo and the Comanche with me. And they will have a little bit different assignment. They will do the different ways of life that goes through the region, the way of life, the shelter, food, clothing, all of the things that pertain to the Caddo and the Comanche. So it's a little bit more centered, it's a little bit more focused, but it also provides the support skills that they need to kind of catch them up and get them where they're supposed to be. The next assignment we're going to do is a whole class activity. We're going to read both books by Tommy DePella. We're going to read The Legend of the Bluebonnet and The Legend of the Indian Paintbrush. The Legend of the Bluebonnet centers around Texas and the state flower of Texas, where The Legend of the Indian Paintbrush can be seen in other states as well. We're going to compare and contrast the two stories using a Venn diagram. This is going to be done as a class. We're going to work through this together. The kids can also work in their small group tables and partners to kind of help get this in mind before we create the class one as a whole. Once we're finished with both books, they are going to have to write. In The Legend of the Bluebonnet, it talks about what a valued possession is and the word sacrifice. A lot of kids don't understand what you mean when you say a valued possession, or they don't understand exactly what it means to sacrifice something. So I really want to build on those two vocabulary words of valued possession and sacrifice. So they're going to have to complete this worksheet where they're going to draw their most valued possession in the box. They're going to tell me about their valued possession and why it's special to them. And then they're going to conclude this paper by telling me, would they sacrifice their valued possession if it meant saving their family? Why or why not? Because in the story The Legend of the Bluebonnet, the little girl sacrifices her doll that is her most valued possession to save the people from famine. So it's one of those things, if I want the kids to make the real life connection between the book and themselves, they're going to identify their most valued possession, they're going to tell me whether they would sacrifice it, and then they're going to give me the visual of it. That's the assignments I've created. I've chosen to put it all in a graphic organizer form. My TEKs are listed. My social studies TEKs are 4.1 history, which are the origins, similarities, and differences of American Indian groups, specifically in Texas. 4.10 economics. The students understand the economic activities of early societies in Texas, with a main focus on the Native Americans that lived in Texas. 4.14 government. The student understands how people organize government, including the differentiation between the Caddo and the Comanche and the way that their governing styles were different. The last social studies TEK is a social studies skills TEK, which involves map reading, using visuals in books, all of the things to interpret the information in the book. Then I have my language arts TEKs. My language arts TEKs are 4.1 reading fluency, which is just going to require students to read grade level text and check for fluency, comprehension, and all the things that are important for reading. It also has 4.2, which is reading and vocabulary development, which ties back to my Legend of the Bluebonnet story with the vocabulary development of the word sacrifice and valued possession. 4.9, reading comprehension. This is the independent reading side. Several of the books are going to be open for them to read during Read to Self as part of the Daily 5 rotation and the Daily 5 grouping. So most of the books that I didn't specifically talk about are going to be put in the Read to Self Center, and they're going to have to write brief reports on each book that they read in the Read to Self Center. 4.10, reading comprehension. This deals with informational, culture, and history texts. So it's all of the texts that are more informational in nature, give you the historical background. It's not really nonfiction because some of it can be narrative fiction, but it is related to the culture and the history of the people that we're studying. And then the last TEK that I put is writing. It's 4.17. It's write about personal experiences. That also ties in with my valued possession paper that I want them to write about. So where the writing component's going to come into this. I chose to divide the unit up into 4 pieces. You have Native Americans, which uses the book American Indians in Texas, Caddo and the Comanche, and the Native Americans in Texas. I also chose to do a section on the special features, which includes the landmarks, the famous places, the food, the motto, the song, the bird, the tree, all of those things that are important about Texas. And that's going to include Bluebonnet at the Texas State Capitol. This is Texas and the Inside Outside Book of Texas. The next area is the Alamo. I chose to do the Voices of the Alamo and the Missions of Texas for this section. And then last, I have the Texas Flowers, which is, of course, the Legend of the Bluebonnet and the Legend of the Indian Paintbrush. I did list all of my assignments, the Venn diagram, the My Most Valued Possession, the timeline, and then the differentiated worksheet pieces that are for the small group activity. They did list that there is a whole group, there's 2 individual groups, and a small group instruction. The TEKs are also listed, as well as the books that I plan on using in each one. All of the books used throughout the presentation will be used directly by the students during the presentation. There's 11 in total, and they will have to do some individual, some small group, some whole class, and some in small group that's just with me. So it's one of those things that I'm trying to hit all the learning styles and the varied differentiated instruction that goes on in my classroom. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for watching.